Hello, my name is Jack Conductor to be precise, and I'm going to tell you a story about how my little purple engine lady learned how to be with friends and also prove herself she's not old. See that little engine there? That's Thomas, but we'll get to him later. This island that I'm talking about that I'm bringing my little engine to is Sodor. Island of Sodor, I would say, where all the engines are working hard, but also bringing vacationers to the island. It's at one end of my special place. I like visiting this place, but with the invitation of Sir Topham Hatt, of course, the controller of the railway. Oh, and there's Thomas, Percy, and James at the shed, and Sir Topham Hatt's about to say about an important announcement. Let's see. Thomas, Percy, James. Yes, sir? I want you to go to random docks early on in the day. We have a special engine that's arriving. What sort of engine? Does she have splendid red paint like I do? What sort of new engine? Does he pull freight cars like we do? Well, we didn't see you two. The three engines were wondering who was the new engine, but we'll find out at random docks. At the docks, things begin to happen. Thomas, Percy, and James, this is Jack Conductor. Hello, but you can call me Jack. I come from the Magic Turtle Railway. Well, Jack, who's the new engine? Well, as of now that we're talking, she's coming right now. Who's she? You'll see. Just then, we heard a loud whistle. Then, out from a cloud of smoke came the new engine, or the engine that came from my railway. She had shiny purple coat, just like James's paintwork, traction rods like Percy's traction rods, and her wheels were the exact same size as Thomas's wheels. This is Lady, and did I say she was actually new? I meant she is, well, an old engine, but she is a newcomer to this island. The engines were surprised. She is a girl? Wow, pretty. Wow, I never seen an engine from a Magic Turtle Railway, or any other railway from the island for that matter, come to this island. So, where do we start with her? Well, let's go to the freight car yard, and I'll show you. You see, Thomas, Lady is very good with freight cars. She can shunt, pull, or push them. That seems pretty good. But there's something I needed to tell you. What's wrong, Jack? Is there something wrong you can tell us? Okay, I'll tell you. You see, Lady's an old engine, and her brakes are made of wood. I couldn't afford metal brakes because that's too expensive. Because of this, I don't want her to pull freight cars 4 or 5 more. So, can you help her? Can you get things easy on her? Or do you think you can help her pull the freight cars? Any of you? James and Percy were not sure, but Thomas was determined. Don't worry, Jack. You can count on us. We always help an engine out. Thanks, Thomas. But just remember, she can only pull 4 or 5 cars. Or if she can't pull that many, one of you guys can help her. We'll remember. Okay. that is settled then. I'll see you guys all later. Bye. So, Thomas, Percy, and James, where should we start? Thomas, Percy, and James looked at each other, and then to Lady. They remember what I said. Lady cannot pull freight cars more than 4 or 5 unless if an engine or more can help her. Or at least it's what I was meant to say. Well, we'll start with pulling and shunting freight cars. Then we can pull them in order. Percy and James weren't really sure, but they have to do it. Even though the 3 engines were careful of Lady's brakes, of course, they still want her to be really useful. And so they did. And so, work began on the freight cars to line them into place. Their job is to bring, Sir Topham Hatt told me that they're going to bring the freight cars to Farmer McCall full of flour, and it was a lot of hard work. After lining up the freight cars, it was decided that all 3 of them should pull with Lady. James gets the back, Thomas and Percy go in the middle, and Lady goes in the front. They coupled up to the freight cars, and they set off to Farmer McCall. Soon, they were puffing through the countryside. They passed through bends, and also through other fields as well. Lady was enjoying herself. So was Thomas, Percy, and James. They were happy that Lady was doing an excellent time, but their moods soon changed. When they saw they were going to go up to Gordon's Hill, they knew they had to pump their hardest. And they could tell that Lady was pumped up for hills like this. As soon as they got up to Gordon's Hill, they started puffing up their hardest. Lady huffed, Thomas puffed, Percy pumped his pistons, and James's face was as red as his paintwork. They huffed and they panted, and their axles ached. At last, they reached the top. We made it, guys! We made it! Thomas, Percy, and James were red in the face, but deep down inside, they couldn't help being happier. We did it! Then there was trouble. There was a bang and a boom. Lady gasped. Thomas and Percy were in total shock. James knew what that could possibly be the sound of. That's an explosion! Lady broke her brakes! As soon as James said that, they began to pick up speed. Thomas, Percy, and James tried to brake hard, but the weight of the heavy freight cars and Lady going very fast, it made them slid, so they didn't know what to think. And they couldn't ask the brake van because there was nobody in the brake van at all. On, faster, faster, the silly freight cars yelled. At first, Lady thought it was fun, but the fun was soon over, and her smile turned into total shock when she saw a shocking sight up ahead. There ahead was Gordon. but luckily the points were switched to another track just in time. Faster, faster, as fast as you want, said the freight cars. Then they saw another terrible sight. Toby was bringing some passengers up the line they were going to, and he saw them too. Oh my goodness! Help! 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 But luckily, a track was switched just in time before Toby was almost going to be slammed. What was that? Cried Toby. Then, they went into a siding to a small junction, and there they saw some buffers. Hey, those will stop us, said Lady, but the points to the buffers weren't set. James gasped. Oh no! We're back on the main line! They soon sped past Henry. Bubbling boilers! Then there was trouble. Ahead of the line, there was a dead-end track that led into a muddy pond. Thomas, Percy, and James saw what they saw, and they applied their brakes as hard as they can. But it was too late! Luckily, nobody was hurt, but Lady was sunk in the pond, and she was covered from boiler to buffer in seaweed. Thomas and Percy were a little dizzy, and they were not injured, but James wasn't. The force of the freight cars caused their coal to shoot out and landed all over James's paintwork. Lady looked back in sadness. Oh no, what have we done? We made a big mess. What will Sir Topham Hatt say? Thomas, Percy, and James were not sure, but they were worried. Of what would Sir Topham Hatt say? They soon found out. Hours later, after they were back on the tracks, except for Percy, who has to be sent to the works, and after they cleaned seaweed off of Lady, Sir Topham Hatt was cross. What happened here? I'm... Lady sputtered. She couldn't say anything. I'll say, sir. And what that might be, Thomas? You see, we were trying to take freight cars to Farmer McCall, but because that lady cannot pull 5 freight cars at once, or 4, me and Percy and James decided to pull... it was my idea. I decided that we should help Lady pull all 5 freight cars at once. But as soon as we got up to Gordon's Hill, her brakes broke, and we couldn't stop. Her brakes broke, and we sort of gone too fast, and that led us to this accident. 5 freight cars? I'm gonna have to talk with Jack. But first, I must ask you, why did her brakes broke? Well, Sir Topham Hatt looked at Thomas, then turned to me. Soon, Thomas, Percy, and James were worried. They were wondering what would become of Lady, too, because of her accident. Even Gordon was worried. Engines, come with me to the station. I'm gonna have a talk with you, Jack. At the station, Thomas, Percy, James, and Lady stayed outside the station. Lady was in the shed, sobbing. Thomas, Percy, and James looked at Lady, and then looked at each other. What will become of Lady? I was wondering too. Even though she's a girl, I still have to care for her. Well, to be honest, I really don't know. Soon Thomas looked at the station. Even though he sees Sir Topham Hatt and Jack talking, it was so windy that he couldn't hear what they were talking about. Thomas, do you know what Sir Topham Hatt and Jack are talking about? Well, it's so windy now that I can't hear them, but it sounds like they might get rid of Lady for good. Now the 3 engines were worried and worried more. They want to help, lady, but they didn't know how. Then Thomas looked over to the shed. He could see a lady in the shed, crying. She was so sad. She thought everything was her fault. And she didn't know what to do. And so did Thomas and Percy, including James. They wanted to help her, but like I said before, they didn't know how. That night, all the engines went to their shed, including Thomas and Percy, except for Lady. She stayed at the shed sobbing. But then she doubled up some guts and thought to herself, I know. I'll prove myself that I'm not a weak engine. I'll prove myself that even if my brakes will not work, I could still pull all 5 freight cars. So Lady chuffed out of her shed to find freight cars. As soon as she found all 5 of them, which were repaired after her accident, she coupled up to them and set off. At first, she didn't enjoy the nighttime. Then she saw Gordon's Hill, but smiled in bravery as she pulled her hardest. As I said before, she puffed it and she panted until her axles ached, but at last she reached the top. She was about to go down the hill when suddenly she started to pick up speed. She tried to stop, but the heavy freight cars pull her down fast. Oh no! Help me! Help! She zoomed down the track very fast, but she didn't know what to think, and she couldn't ask anybody for help. They were all asleep. Soon, she saw a dark bend ahead. Cars! She cried, and shut her eyes. Luckily, half of the freight cars were not hurt, but Lady and the first 2 freight cars were already deep inside the bush. She now realized that nobody could hear her. Or maybe so. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt and Jack came to see the engines. Calling all engines. We need all of your help to find Lady. Can I count you on that? Good. As soon as the engines heard Sir Topham Hatt's announcement, they were all completely shocked. Even Thomas, Percy, and James were shocked as well. As soon as Thomas heard this, he finally plucked up courage. And then he yelled, All right, Steamies, let's go find Lady. We need to find her, no matter what it takes. Lady's our friend. I know she's new to you all, but we need to help her. The engines looked at Thomas, and soon they finally found the courage, and they too want to help Lady. And so they all agreed to help. Good! Now let's go find Lady! Soon all the engines searched around the island. They searched through high tracks and through round bends. But none of them could find Lady. Meanwhile, Thomas was steaming down the track. But he still couldn't help that moment when they pulled that many 5 freight cars. And the moment Lady's brakes broke, and they had that horrible accident. Lady, I'm sorry, but I'll find you. Thomas shed a tear under his unfortunate mistake, but under his bravery, and because he had to search for Lady, he knew he had to still be brave. Lady, he was thinking about the accident too. I wish we haven't pulled that many freight cars. And I wish I would have done it myself. I was only trying to prove I can do all the work by myself. And I'm going to prove to Sir Topham Hatt and Jack that I can still work even though I'm old. And now look where I am. I'm a very silly engine. Then, Lady started to notice Thomas was coming right behind the bend. That's Thomas! She soon blew her whistle. And Thomas heard her. Thomas then backed up, and what saw him shocked him. It was the next 3 freight cars that led into a bush. He then soon tooted his whistle, and the whistle tuned back. Lady, is that you? Yeah, Thomas, it's me. Oh, thank goodness. Did you run away? No, said Lady. I was trying to be a really useful engine. Then, Lady told Thomas all about her adventure in the night. Thomas seemed amazed. Thomas, said Lady, I'm sorry about the accident. I was just trying to have fun, and I wanted to be like you guys. I want to be useful. I want to be your friend. Thomas just smiled. Lady, it's nobody's fault. It's just your brakes. And we are still friends. And you are a really useful engine. Me and Thomas, Percy, and James are still proud of you, and you are trying to be a really useful engine. And I'll have you back on the rails in no time at all. When help finally arrived, they got the freight cars out of the bush, and they were almost going to send Lady to the works. Percy and James were so relieved, even Thomas was too. But he noticed Lady was sad. Even James and Percy noticed, and they soon came to the realization. They knew they had to have a speak to Sir Topham Hatt about everything. The engines hoped that they would save the best for last. Even Lady was hoping. At the station, Sir Topham Hatt was questioning Lady why she pulled those many freight cars. But before Lady could say anything, Thomas plucked up courage. Because Lady was trying to prove herself. Sir Topham Hatt and I started to listen. She wanted to prove herself she's not a weakling and that she still can be really, really useful, even when she has 4 freight cars. Because she was worried. I mean, we were both worried you were going to send her away. But Sir Topham Hatt and I smiled. You really think we would send her away? Thomas, Percy, James, and Lady were confused. We weren't going to send her away. Sir Topham Hatt and I had a little talk, and we decided that, well, Lady should have some proper brakes. Stronger ones that maybe Lady can pull more than 5. Really? Of course. Why would you think we would scrap Lady? Because we were a little worried. Well, there's no need to be worried, little engines. Lady is here to stay as long as she likes. Also, I'm offering Lady to pull coaches and pull freight cars whatever she likes to. Thomas and James were excited. Even Percy was so excited he felt like his boiler would burst. You're gonna have me pull passengers and pull coaches? Thank you! Lady was so excited that she could have been felt happier. Wow, Lady. I'm very surprised. Congratulations. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, James. And thank you, Percy. If it weren't for you guys helping me, I would have proved myself. It was no biggie. Yes, it was all in a day's work. Yeah, it was no problem. Yep, as long as you're on the island, let our friendship always had our Sodor time together. Soon, Lady was happily chugging along, pulling coaches and freight cars throughout the day. Even Thomas, Percy, and James were also helping as well. And so it comes to the happy end of our story. And it's time for all of us to look at the sunset. Just like Lady, and James, and Percy, and just like Thomas. Next time, a new beginning.
Hello, Lily. Welcome to Sodor.